Are you tired of conflicting diet advice and not sure which path to take for long-term health? Today, we're going to dive deep into the carnivore versus keto diet debate. We're going to talk about what's the truth and the long-term impacts. Stick around because by the end of the video, you're going to know exactly which diet might be the ultimate game changer for you. Hey, I'm Dr. Carter with Modern Body Clinic, and we are weight loss experts. A ton of people lose weight every day. Did you know that the keto diet was originally designed in the 1920s to help children with refractory seizures? Nothing else would work, and they fumbled upon this diet that seemed to help control the seizures. Later on, in the 1950s and 60s, they started using it for weight loss. Atkins diet was created around that time. Well, what is the difference between the carnivore diet and the keto diet? Well, they are both essentially what's called low carbohydrate diets. The carnivore diet is focused primarily on animal products as your source of calories. This means meat, fish, eggs, animal fats. This is primarily where you get your calories from. Now, a couple of things to be mindful of on the carnivore diet is there potentially some deficiencies due to how limited the diet is. One of those is going to be vitamin C, though there are some ways to get around that. Fiber is definitely lacking in this diet, and some minerals are certainly going to be missing when you go on a carnivore diet. You have to be mindful of it and really just compensate for that. Now, for the keto diet is more of a high-fat diet, and so there are different versions of the keto diet. There's a classic diet. Actually, there's two classics. There's Atkins diet, there's what's called traditional, and the fat content will be anywhere from 60 to 80% of your calories coming from fat based on which type of diet you choose. It has a moderate amount of protein, so it's going to be around 20%. And the rest of the diet is going to be carbs. It's, again, depends which version you're on. It could be as little as 5% up to, but the keto diet is going to be more mindful of the macronutrients, so the fat, carbs, and protein that you're eating. Vegetables are something that is allowed on a keto diet, as well as nuts and seeds, avocados. Those are things that you can consume on a ketogenic diet. What's the pros of being on a carnivore diet? Well, certainly it's simple. No macro counting. You're basically just going to eat animal products till you're full. Also, it's certainly going to have a high protein, which is good for maintaining muscle. And some people will see reduced inflammation, not everyone. Keto work is going to be what's called nutritional ketosis, and it's going to help promote fat burning. One of the advantages over carnivore is that you have more diverse food options on a keto diet. How do they compare head-to-head in regards to weight loss? Well, both of them you are going to have weight loss. Probably with a carnivore diet, you're going to see a little faster at the beginning, and that's because the carbohydrate load is so low. A lot of that's going to be water, but you will see quicker weight loss at the beginning for the carnivore diet. As far as heart health, on the carnivore diet, definitely the diet is higher in saturated fat, and the research is really mixed on how that impacts your cholesterol. Some studies show it makes it worse, and some show it no benefit or actually improves it. Ketogenic diet, you will sometimes see improved lipids. Your cholesterol pattern will look better, but definitely the concern about having this high-fat diet long-term. In regards to digestive health, carnivore, there's no fiber. Your gut microbiome is going to be different for sure. And if you've tried a carnivore diet, you know at the beginning there can be definitely some GI issues, primarily diarrhea, cramping. Usually that goes away, but the fiber lack is certainly a concern. Ketogenic diet is still lower in fiber than a traditional diet, but you can get some fiber in it, primarily from non-starchy vegetables, but certainly this can be managed on a ketogenic diet. Hormone balance. When we look at hormone balance, carnivore diet, there's not really a lot of data on this specific aspect. There is anecdotal reports of it helping improving their testosterone and reducing PMS symptoms. With the ketogenic diet, hormones, you're going to generally see more stable blood sugar and improved insulin sensitivity. All those are great and good things. However, how is it going to impact us long term? Carnivore diet, we will say, is going to be somewhat challenging to do socially, somewhat practical as well, to only eat animal products. Certainly, I mentioned before, some of the nutrient and mineral concerns that could definitely crop up based on how you're doing the diet. And psychologically, what is the impact of having such a restrictive diet? Keto definitely is more varied and flexible diet. It's certainly easier to do socially and is certainly the study has been shown to be easier for people to maintain. What about in regards to health? Now, doing nutrition science is certainly difficult. Ideally, you would like to do what's called a randomized controlled trial. That is difficult when we're doing nutrition data because one of the things is you have to do it for a long time. You just want to do like 10-year study to follow someone for 10 years, monitor them is difficult, but also to have an intervention over that time is difficult. The next best thing is to do what's called a cohort or observational study where you follow people over a long time period. You don't do an intervention and you look at what is going on. The other part will be helpful to show if something is related is if it's a dose relationship, meaning if you do more of X, you see more of Y. That is one of the ways that we discovered smoking related to lung cancer, in that the more people smoked, the more lung cancer we saw. There are a few studies that we can look at, and these are actually recent studies. In fact, there is one done this year from Australia, and what they did is they looked at a group of people. I think they followed them for about 16 years, and they essentially what they did is scored how much of a low carb diet they were on. They put them in 5 groups. One group had the most carbs, and that was about 58%. The people had the highest low carb amount, meaning they ate the least amount of carbs, was around 38%. What they were able to show in that study is that the incidence of diabetes went up for those people, meaning they developed diabetes over that time. And so the people who were on the lower carb diet seemed to get diabetes more. They did see the normal risk factors that you would see for people developing diabetes, whether that be weight, their BMI was high, they smoked, they were inactive. Those also contributed to the risk of developing diabetes. There's a couple other studies, and I want to go real deep into those, so hang on, check this out. They basically divide these people into 5 different groups. The group 1 was the people had the what I would call normal carbohydrate intake. The 5th group had the lowest carbohydrate intake, meaning they were dividing these people into groups based on how much carbohydrate they were eating. And the reason to do that is to see if that was related to any outcomes. Again, they followed for 30 years, and they were looking specifically at the risk of them developing diabetes. What they found when they looked at these 5 different groups is, one is overall, these people had a higher risk of developing diabetes over this time period, which is interesting, to say the least. And the people who use animal-based low-carb diet, again, over the same time period, had even higher risk, 35 to 39% risk of developing diabetes. Now, interestingly, the people who did more of a vegetable-based low-carb diet, they actually had a lower risk of developing diabetes. And the people who were on what they called a healthy low-carb diet, they actually had a 15% lower risk of developing diabetes. I'll just describe kind of which each of these groups are. Animal-based means they got most of their protein and fat from animals or animal products. Vegetable-based means they got most of the protein or fats from vegetables. Healthy is essentially going to be the vegetable-based diet, but also they are going to avoid added sugar, they were avoiding processed food, and they were having more fiber in their diet. That's what the healthy low-carb diet looked in that group. As you can see, a low-carb diet may or may not work. Depends on how you do it, right? Now, let's look at the next study. They actually use the same data and the same researchers, actually. And this is looking at mortality risk. And a lot of times we look at different things in research. We'll look at your cholesterol, your LDL, your hemoglobin A1C. All of these things are surrogate markers. They help give us an idea of what's going on. But what we really care about is, one, is there morbidity, meaning is there more disease? And then if you live longer, meaning mortality. This one is looking specifically at that. They did the same thing, divided these groups into 5 different carbohydrate diets, anywhere from a regular, what they would call unhealthy, was the group that had processed food, low fiber, added sugar, and healthy was vegetable-based and high fiber, low processed food. This is a little graph of what they found out. And essentially, if you're at 1, that means no risk or benefit. And these are people that already had diabetes. They found people who already had diabetes and looked at their low carbohydrate score or not. Pretty similar. The people who were on a healthy or vegetable low carb diet score did the best. They increased their risk 22 to 24%, meaning mortality wise, like they live longer. Also, if you looked at the total, everybody's in the same group. Those people actually had a lower mortality too, of 13%. When we look at the animal-based or unhealthy groups, what they did see is there's no increased risk, no
no increased benefit. Though the animal-based one is starting to go below 1, it's still touching 1. What we can say for that is that nor is there increased risk, nor is there increased benefit. There you have it.
Certainly, I think what we can say is that a healthy, more plant-based, low-carb diet is going to be a better option versus other diets, including carnivore and certainly a traditional American diet for sure. In regards to mortality, these studies do suggest that for diabetes or the risk of developing diabetes, same thing, we want to do a healthier diet. The quality of the diet certainly matters. It looks like plant-based is going to be better long-term. And that's not to say you never have meat, but in general, plant-based is going to be better for mortality and morbidity, meaning less disease and living longer. Well, I hope you found that helpful. If you have, please subscribe. Otherwise, check out one of these videos on weight loss.